There was a time where I wasn't exactly losing, but I was shrinking. Not because I lacked potential, but because I was afraid of being fully seen, afraid of being judged, and afraid of stepping into a version of myself that I didn't feel ready to own. What I realized though is you don't stay stuck because you're underqualified. You stay stuck because you're underexpressed. So today we're talking about the silent choice that so many entrepreneurs make, playing small to stay comfortable, and the price we pay for doing so. Let's go ahead and get to it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Success Spectrum podcast, sponsored by Apex Affiliation. I'm your host, Kadeem McLean, and I have a very important topic for you today. And the topic is about why we play small as entrepreneurs and the cost that we pay for doing so. You may not think it, but there's a lot of hidden ways that as entrepreneurs, we shrink ourselves in our voice, in our presence, in our goals. But self-minimizing keeps us away from what we're capable of. It pushes what we're capable of away, down the road, down the line, because we will never achieve it if we continue to minimize ourselves. So we're breaking down why we play small, how it sabotages our growth, and how to step into our full expression with confidence, conviction, and clarity. And one of the most important pieces to this, of course, like anything, you want to start at the root. So why do we play small? That is the real question. And oftentimes it's a fear of misjudgment. It's a fear of being judged. Why we play small? See, studies show that we underestimate or overestimate rather how harshly people judge us. When I first started speaking on stages, of course, nerves is first time for everybody. For the most part, you'll have some nerves, of course. And so I had to realize for myself over time, they're not worried about me. They're not judging me. They're not looking at me saying, oh, what's in his teeth or what's in his eye or anything like that. No, they are worried about why I'm looking at them. It's funny because when two people are staring at each other, we're so self-consumed that we think, oh, why are they watching me? Is there something in my teeth? Is there something in my hair? Meanwhile, the other person is thinking the exact same thing. Are they watching me because something's in my hair? Something's in my teeth? So again, we overestimate how harshly people judge us. We're worried about what they're thinking, but they're worried about what we're thinking, ironically. Sometimes we fear outgrowing the relationships, right? People we grew up with, people we, let's say, have a strong relationship with from when we were younger, and that's called loyalty guilt. We feel like we have to stay loyal to them and stay with them doing the things we used to do because that's who we are, but really it's who we were. And honestly, this is catch-22, if that makes sense, because we're not being loyal to them by playing small. It's actually the opposite, in my opinion. We are being disloyal to them by playing small, because if we were loyal to them and elevating our lives and their lives, we would play big, not small. Because if we play big and get to another level, we can then reach back and help them to that next level. But if we're all playing small on this smaller level, on the smaller scale, nobody can help anybody. Again, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So if you fill your cup and you get to that next level, now you can pour a little bit into their cup and help them get to the next level. So really it's, again, a catch-22. It's not loyalty. It's the opposite of loyalty. But that's what it's called, loyalty guilt, making people shrink to maintain acceptance. So you shrink yourself to stay where you were, and so you can continue talking with those people you used to talk to. Fear of responsibility, the idea that success increases expectations with increased pressure, right? There's increased pressure because you have more responsibility because of this thing you now have, which is a level of success. I am successful now, or I am playing bigger and reaching for a level of success, which requires me to do more, be more, answer more phone calls, more emails, and so on and so forth, where honestly, yes, of course, you're gonna have to work. But depending on how you go about it, it won't be that bad. In actuality, it will be better than where you are now, because it's so ironic. I've heard it said this way before. You think up money. You don't realize it, but as entrepreneurs, that's what we do. We think up money. When you work with your hands, the more you work with your hands, the less you'll get paid, typically. And when you look at millionaires, multimillionaires, and so on, you'll realize it. Do some studying here. The more you work with your hands, think about an organization. The CEO gets paid the most. Do they work with their hands? No, the technical people do. And the technical people typically get paid a lot less than management or admin staff or directors, right? So again, working with your hands, you're going to get paid less. So you think up money. And the reason I say that is because yes, there may be more responsibility, but there's less, say, technical work you have to do with your hands in order to get that level of success you're probably looking for. So the idea that success increases expectations, again, I guess it's a myth, something we come up with in our minds, to be honest. Fear of visibility. Research confirms that fear of failure feels worse socially than privately. If you fail in public, quote unquote fail in public, it's gonna sting. But when you fail in private, nobody knows that you didn't do this thing correctly on the first try. It's not gonna hurt so much because other people don't know about it. You can keep it to yourself. Whereas if you fail publicly, quote unquote fail, then again, you can't hide that. People know it's there. People know you did fail. But if it's private, you're good. You're good in the sense that nobody else knows about this quote unquote failure. And again, fail is really first attempt in learning. So if you ask me, keep going. You can only fail so many times before you succeed. And every success, let's say, is preceded by a bunch of fails or failures. You continue to fail until you reach that success. There's also something called self-awareness bias. Most people undervalue their abilities and underestimate their potential, especially when perfectionism and comparison are in the mix. So again, we undervalue our abilities and we underestimate our potential. Self-assessment bias. We don't really see ourselves with a clear lens. We know the bad things we do or the times we're slacking and so on, but we also know some of the good things that we do. But oftentimes the negative things we do that we perceive to be negative, or the times that we're relaxing or quote unquote slacking, has more weight than the times that we're actually working and moving forward, making progress. And we are with ourselves 100% of the time. So we look at the times that we're slacking and not taking those steps to move forward, and we give them more weight. So again, that self-assessment bias is I'm with myself 24/7. I know the times when I'm slacking. I know how much effort and time I put into things or don't put into things. But the time I don't put into it, in my mind, has more weight than the things that I do. We're our worst advocates, if you will, or worst critics rather. We are our worst critics. But the idea is to also be our best advocates. That's why it's oftentimes good to have somebody, a third party, if you will, looking at our situation and coaching us, mentoring us, helping us to see the good things and not focus only on the bad things. When we look at others, we see the success story, but we don't see the times that they're quote unquote slacking, which is why this perceived or this negative self-assessment bias comes in. We think we have to do exactly what everybody else is doing, which is work 24/7, 365, but that's not what they're doing. They're not doing that. That's what they show you, but that's not what they're doing. You're not with them 24/7. They only share certain things, right? I aim to take my Sundays. I record currently on Sundays, which I need to stop doing so that I can relax on my Sundays and stop working 24/7. I don't work 24/7. I don't ever want to put that out there because that's not the truth. However, I have a level of success and resting is a requirement. It's important. So I don't ever want to make it seem that way. But again, when we look at certain people, we follow certain celebrities and so on, it looks like they are just working 24/7, but I promise you they're not. And one of the last reasons here why we shrink ourselves is because childhood programming. We've been told, stay quiet, stay in the corner, don't be too loud, don't stand out. And often these things lead to programming that we never really rewrite. And that programming says, okay, Kadeem, don't express yourself too much. Stay quiet. Listen to their opinions. Don't share your opinion. It's not needed. It's not necessary, right? And so I grew up with a group of older people, right? I always hung around older people than me. And oftentimes it was my opinions or things I had to say were overlooked to the point again where I decided to stay quiet and just observe and listen, because if I'm going to speak and waste my energy, no one's going to listen to me anyway. So let me just stay quiet. And it might be something similar with you where you decide to stay quiet and not share your opinion or express yourself for some of these reasons we're talking about now, but also because of just programming. So that being said, you're not hiding because you're incapable. You're hiding because you're conditioned to minimize your own power. Not that what I had to say was irrelevant or not helpful, but it was just being overlooked, and that's how I was taught. But I had to realize for myself, no, share your opinion. No, raise your hand. And we'll talk about raising your hand shortly, but how does playing small evolve? Because that's the root of it, we called it, right? Why we play small, the mentality or reasoning behind it, but we need to uncover that now. What does that lead to? That leads to something called self-sabotage. And self-sabotage leads to reduced opportunities, right? You can never be chosen if you don't raise your hand. Like I talked about a second ago, if you do not raise your hand, you will never be chosen. One of our biggest issues as entrepreneurs is obscurity. Nobody knows you and nobody knows what you do, and nobody knows why they should come to you for what you do. What experience do you have? What education do you have? Who have you helped? Why are you so much better than the person down the street? That we don't even get to those questions if I don't know you. I don't know what you do. Obscurity. People don't see you. They don't know what you do. That is one of our biggest issues as entrepreneurs. How do we overcome that? Raise your hand. I remember when I was in school as a student, many years ago, I never used to raise my hand. And the reason for that is because, again, stay quiet, stay in your corner. I don't want to stand out. I don't like being in the spotlight. Let me just stay behind, let's say at the back of the class, in the corner, quiet, do my work, which I barely did at the time, and talk with some friends and whatever the case is. But what I was doing was I had questions or answers to questions that the teachers would ask in my mind, but I would never raise my hand to share my answer. I would just see if what I had in my mind was right or wrong. And eventually I started to raise my hand. And I promise you, raising my hand led to one of the best opportunities I've ever had in my life. Just raising my hand to answer questions. I started to raise my hand, answer questions. My grades went through the roof, right? A+ and so on throughout the rest of my school career. And it changed my life because it led me to go into something called Tim Hortons camps, for anybody who knows. And that led me through a 6-year program, worked with them, did some speeches for them and so on and so forth. Completely changed my life. But that was just for me raising my hand. All I did was raise my hand and start to answer questions. And that completely flipped my life around. So again, you cannot be chosen if you do not raise your hand. Show yourself, put yourself out there. As an entrepreneur, if you don't put yourself out there, nobody knows what you do. But how can people come to you for your service, your product, your solution if nobody knows who you are or what you do? Raising my hand was something called a stretch moment, because I'm a quiet individual. I'm an introvert. I don't like to share too much. I'm a very private individual. I don't want to, again, be the spotlight or talk in front of the class, nothing like that. But I started to raise my hand and utilize those stretch moments and overcome that, let's say, lack of confidence, which helped me to build confidence, honestly, and put myself in an uncomfortable situation, which helped me to grow. Those stretch moments. What that helped me to do was to increase my skill. Because if you don't do that, your skill stagnates. And when your skill stagnates, you prevent yourself from developing further skills. So me raising my hand, again, led me to developing skills. I was able to raise my hand now and speak in front of people. I was able to raise my hand and answer a question at the risk of getting the answer incorrect. But that helped me to raise my self-confidence. That helped me to realize my opinion does matter, and that oftentimes I did have the right answer. So I shouldn't be afraid to raise my hand and share that answer. Self-sabotage also leads to decision fatigue because hiding requires constant internal negotiation. And I promise you, it drains energy. I know because I'm speaking from personal experience. I have lived through this, and oftentimes I still live through this, to be honest with you. I live 90% of my life in my brain. There's things I don't say, there's things I do say, there's opinions and so on that I hold back even to this day. I share a lot more than I used to. However, I live my life up here. I have a question for every question that has a question. So it goes multiple layers deep. So that can be so draining. If I have to make a decision, oftentimes, there are so many different factors that I take into consideration, which can waste time, to be honest with you, and therefore waste energy. So decision fatigue, again, hiding requires constant internal negotiation, whereas if you just express yourself completely and you decide quickly, you'll get over that decision fatigue and you will stop self-sabotaging, which will help you to save that energy. And identity conflict is the next piece here, because shrinking creates mental tension between who you are and who you're pretending to be. I know I'm not this specific version of myself which plays small. I know I'm not the specific version of myself which stays where I'm at. I know I'm a very growth-oriented individual. I know this bookshelf behind me, as an example, it needs to be filled with more books. Ironically, I don't know what happened to some of my books. I don't know if I lost them or what when I made this move, but I'm kind of hurt. So there's some books I'm like, wait a second. I had this book. Where did it go? Anyhow, I'm a growth-oriented individual. So why in the world would I play small and create some type of identity conflict in myself, which again drains and wastes energy and time, to be honest? There's no point to that. Let me stop shrinking myself, stop playing small, and just play big. I'm growth oriented. It's what I do. It's who I am. I go after the next thing. There's no point to me playing small, wasting time, energy, and effort. And honestly, time is going to continue to fly by. Environmental mismatch. Playing small attracts relationships and people who also play small. Birds of a feather flock together. You've heard this many times. If you continue to vibrate on this smaller frequency or slower frequency, lower frequency, you're going to attract people on that frequency. Until you decide to operate on the frequency where you know you should be, you're going to attract those other people on the lower frequency. But once you start operating on a higher frequency, guess what? You can attract people, opportunities that are on that higher frequency. But it doesn't happen until you switch that frequency, switch those habits. So self-sabotage, it's not intentional. I understand, I get it, but it's a natural consequence of avoiding expansion. When we constantly play small and avoid expanding and getting into that discomfort, that's where self-sabotage comes in. So we talked about, again, playing it small and how that leads to self-sabotage. But what's the opposite of that? Playing it big, of course. And when we play big, there's some real impact that happens here. Increased opportunity flow. Visibility statistically correlates with more opportunities. The real impact of playing it big. Statistically, visibility leads to more opportunities. When you put yourself out there more, you're more visible, people can see you and find you, it leads to more opportunities, because if they're unable to find you, how are they going to come to you for your service? It doesn't happen. It's not going to work. But when you put yourself out there, make yourself visible, easy to find, then of course, as an entrepreneur, your product, service, solution can be found and people know to come to you for that solution. That often leads to more confidence, because your confidence grows with evidence, not affirmation. Let's make that clear. However, when people come to you, that is your evidence. They're coming to you for your service. There's a reason for that. There's more people out there that will come to you for your service as long as you continue to stay visible and out there in the public. More expression leads to more proof. Better decisions. And when you play it big, express people gain clarity faster because they operate from authenticity and not avoidance. When you operate from authenticity, people vibe with that. They can relate to that. They resonate with it because they see you're not being fake. They see, oh, Kadeem really is this person that X, Y, and Z. He really is growth oriented. He really does like to read and continue to listen to podcasts and attend events and so on and so forth. Like that's who I am. It's a part of me. So again, when you show that, when you put yourself out there, that correlates with authenticity, which of course leads to better decisions, because I know I'm being authentic to myself and I'm not battling between two things, playing small versus who I know I really am and operating on that higher frequency. This is the big point right here. Okay, so listen closely. Identity shaping. Neuroscience shows that identity follows behavior. When your identity shifts, it only happens because your behavior has shifted. When you change your actions, when you change your behavior, then your identity mentally shifts. So if you're constantly relaxing, constantly watching Netflix shows and so on and so forth, constantly, again, nothing wrong with doing it sparingly, but constantly, your identity is going to say, oh, you know what? I really do want to relax. Like, this is a comfortable life and I'm good and so on and so forth. But are you really? Because you have different goals. You have a different plan for your life. You have a certain future you're aiming to accomplish or acquire for you and your family. When you shift that and you can constantly, daily add something to go after that goal, that future goal you have or that future lifestyle, then your identity shifts to say, okay, I'm going after this thing. I am somebody who plays it big. I am no longer somebody who shrinks and plays small, because I'm going after this grandiose lifestyle where I can do whatever I want to, help whoever I want to, and I have options, because that's what money really provides. It's entrepreneur journey. We are entrepreneurs, and we know a big part of being an entrepreneur is the money. Not because of the money, but because what we can do with the money. You have a certain goal, you have a certain place where you want to live, you have certain people you want to help out and be a philanthropist. You require money to do so. And so when you go after and you accomplish, you get that money, you can do those things. But in order to acquire those finances, we have to play big. We cannot play small to do it. It's not going to work. We have to have that identity shift. Therefore, we have to shift our behavior and our habits to constantly take the steps to go after that bigger lifestyle. Your presence becomes a signal in this case, right? I'm ready for more. That is what we're telling the world. That's what we're telling God, the universe, whatever it is that you believe in. And that alone can change your trajectory. As a subscriber to this podcast or a listener to this podcast, I want to give you $30. How am I going to do that? Enter Rakuten. Rakuten is a platform where you can find deals of the week. And on here, it doesn't matter if you're looking for clothes, doesn't matter if you're looking for electronics, services, food, you can get cash back. $30 cash back, rather 30%, 20%, 4%. You can get Dyson Yeti. I know a lot of us need to file our taxes, those of us who are late. You can use Intuit TurboTax to file your taxes. Ancestry. There are deals upon deals on here. And here's how it's going to work. I refer you. You click the link in the description. You spend $30 on this platform. Guess what? We both get $30 back. Sounds like a win-win deal, doesn't it? Go ahead and click that link in the description and get yourself your $30. There's an emotional and practical cost to shrinking. And that is what we want to talk about right now, which is internal resentment. And honestly, it's not a great feeling. Internal resentment. You feel the weight of unexpressed potential. And those of you who know me, who've been following me for a while, I do not like that word potential. However, you feel the weight of that unexpressed potential because you know you should have went after that thing. You know you should be further along. You know you should drive that car already, live in that house already, have that relationship already, operate on a different frequency, have those relationships, have a different circle. Whatever it is you're aiming to accomplish, you should have helped those people already. But that's not to say it's too late. I'm just saying there's an emotional cost to all of this, which is that internal resentment. And we need to overcome that. But how do we do that? Again, shift those habits immediately because identity follows habit. Missed opportunities. Silence guarantees that you will not be considered for an opportunity. So what do we need to do? Again, not get obnoxious, if you will, but get loud. Play big. Walk differently. Don't walk. I used to walk hunched over all the time, and I think I still do sometimes where I catch myself and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I deserve to be here just as much as anybody else. Put my shoulders back and put my head up, my chin up, and let's walk, right? And so when you walk a certain way, I don't know if you realize this, but how can I say this without being, okay, people who are predators, and I don't want to get too, let's say, morbid or anything on this, but people who are predators, they look at how people are walking, the energy they carry, and oftentimes they'll pick their targets based off of that, right? It's a factor in them picking their targets. And I only say that, again, not to get morbid or anything like that, or talk about this lightly, but the only reason I say that is because when you walk with the level of confidence, shoulders back, right, chest up, let's say, chin up, it avoids certain energy, negative energy, and it attracts certain good energy. So again, walking in a certain way, that is one way to break that silence. Because again, silence guarantees that you will not be considered. But when you walk with energy, you're now saying, yes, the good opportunities are going to come my way. Of course, you have to speak it as well and put yourself out there, get visible, everything we talked about. But again, as a quick example, that is one way to attract those opportunities, right? So delayed progress is our next one. If you do what feels safe, progress remains slow. If we constantly play it safe, we're not going anywhere. We are staying exactly where we are, or we're going to regress. Instead of making progress, we're going to regress because we're going to stay stagnant or regress. We're just trying to stay comfortable. We don't want to do the uncomfortable thing and grow. We don't want to push past certain barriers that are either in our mind or in the real world. But again, if you are going after something big and you're an entrepreneur, you did this for a reason. You're going after something big. You don't want to play small. So stop playing small. It's that simple. Though it may not be easy, it is very simple. So let's flip that mindset by flipping our habits and our behavior so that we can then move forward with this thing. Because another emotional or practical cost to this is the loss of self-trust. This is huge because every time you shrink, you teach yourself that you cannot trust you. And if you don't trust you, how do you expect me to trust you? I can smell it. I can see it. I can feel it. Your customers or potential customers can see it, feel it. They know it. You've got to trust you. How do you build that trust with yourself? We'll talk about that shortly. But again, build that trust with ourselves. Stop playing small and not lose that self-trust we have, but build on it. Ultimately, that can lead to identity erosion. And identity erosion is when you constantly hide, you forget what you're capable of. And it's never a good feeling, again, because if I don't trust me, I live with myself 24/7, 365, right? However many days are in a decade. I live with myself always. So do you. So you know the good things, the bad things, the great things, the not so great things, whatever. You know it. If you give so much weight to the negative or the not so great things, we are never going to fully trust ourselves and understand that we can do the good things 10 times over. So build that self-trust because it's important. But playing small, again, it protects your comfort. We don't want to be comfortable. You do not want to be comfortable. I'm sorry to tell you, as an entrepreneur, you do not want to be comfortable, at least not yet, right? And not all the time. You want to get uncomfortable. You definitely want to get uncomfortable because playing small protects your comfort, but it destroys your confidence. And again, as an entrepreneur, we've got to build that confidence. Generally speaking, yes. However, as entrepreneurs, we need to build that confidence, because without it, we're going to stay stuck. We're going to stay stagnant. So finally, how to stop playing small. I want to give you some practical steps here, behavior things that we can do. Commit to one visible action per week. Whether it's a post, whether you speak something or you speak to somebody or you share an opinion or whatever, one actionable step per week that is visible. Do that every week. And of course, you will start to gain some confidence. You can do it in a small controlled environment and then continue to step up the ladder, let's say, to the point where it's second nature. You're comfortable with it. You're confident in your ability to do it. Whether or not you're extremely or you're perfectly comfortable with it, at least you've built the confidence to do it regardless of your comfort. Do a fear rep. Intentionally practice being seen, again, in low stakes environments, like I just mentioned, where you start small. You start with your group of friends. You start with your best friend, and then you go to your group of friends. And then you go into that club or group that you're a part of outside of your friends. And then you go into your sports team or your workplace or whatever the case might be. And you start to share there, right? Little steps at a time in a controlled environment. Get into bigger rooms. Proximity rewires your identity. Again, birds of a feather flock together. They say you hang out with losers, you will become a loser. When you hang out with millionaires, you will become a millionaire. But that's why we need to step into these bigger rooms. But we're not going to do that if we don't feel confident and have a level of self-trust with ourselves. So again, we need to build that confidence and build that self-trust by doing these things visibly once per week, right? The actionable steps, do those fear reps, and define your full expression baseline. Your full expression baseline. What is that? That is how the real you shows up when you're not filtering. Will the real Slim Shady or the real Kadeem McLean please stand up? And that is something that we constantly need to do. Will the real you continue to stand up in whatever environment you are in? And yes, we need to filter certain people into our lives when we're operating on that higher frequency. But one other thing we need to do is audit our environment. Get rid of the things that keep us playing small, including the people. And I don't mean get rid of them. You can, great if you can do it, but lower your interactions with them. Monitor your frequency of interactions with them. Lower how often you speak with them, because they are the part of the reason you are playing small. Eliminate it, minimize it, do what you've got to do, because adding people into your life who are operating on that higher frequency is going to do very little for you if you're still operating in that environment that required you to play small. Shift your self-talk from I hope to I am becoming, because there is power in language. There is power in your words. Not I hope to do this, I hope to help these people. I am becoming the person who is capable of helping these people, of owning those things, of whatever it is. One more note here. Expansion is a skill. The more you practice it, the better you become at it and the more natural it becomes. So if we can, don't play small. That's not what we're here for. We got to the root of it. We gave you some ideas that can, and actionable things that can help you to break out of playing small, to step into that bigger version of you and to evolve into the next best version of you. Well, we need to practice that skill. We need to become better with that skill. So ask yourself, this is the question for you of the day. Where am I dimming my potential, and what future opportunities am I losing because of it? Because the life you want, the goals you have, the lifestyle you're going after, it requires you to stop limiting and hiding from the size of your potential. So if you're ready to stop shrinking and start showing up as the next best version of you that already belongs to you, really, then go ahead and click the link in the description to join the Freedom Hub community, our Facebook group. It's open for now. It will be closed soon enough. But this is where entrepreneurs learn to own their presence, develop confidence, and grow into their full potential, into the next best version of themselves, and of course, evolve. All right, so Kadeem here. I hope this episode was helpful for you. Share it out with somebody who can benefit from it. And hey, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I appreciate you liking, coming back and listening to it, commenting, all those things. So thank you. Appreciate you for being here. Kadeem here, and I'll see you in the next one.